Hi, my name is Rob Vanderlyn, and Athletic Director at Boonville High School. This week's assignment was to create a budget wish list for every sport. Each class member had to do a different sport, and then we were given a budget to cut and make sure we stay within budget. When I added up everybody's wish list, we got a total of $192,000 plus, and the budget that was given to us was $92,000. So we had to go through and cut $100,000, basically $100,000 from what the wish lists were. And when I first got this assignment and started looking, I wanted to set a little guidelines so I could be as consistent as possible with each sport. So here are kind of the guidelines that I went by. The first thing I did is if any team ordered both uniforms and warm-ups, I let them have one or the other. In this case, I just started out by approving all the jerseys and cutting all the warm-ups just to see where we would end up at the end. The other thing I did was anytime there was equipment like gloves, team shoes, team t-shirts, team shorts that were basically extras that were not uniforms, I cut those immediately. Next thing I did was any actual equipment that I deemed that the team really didn't need to have, that most of the kids probably already had. For example, most baseball players, we don't provide gloves for them because they already have their own gloves. Same way with the bats. I did, both baseball and softball wanted bats for their teams, and I cut down to give them a couple, but not everything that they asked for. I just felt that most athletes already had the equipment that they needed to play the sport. All scoreboard requests, I believe there was either 3 or 4 sports that wanted either scoreboards or timers. I cut those with the thought that I was going to approach businesses in town and the booster club in town and kind of approach the businesses first and see if they wanted to donate scoreboards, and that way they could use it for advertising dollars. And I thought that would be a good way of doing it. If we couldn't get the businesses to do it, hit the booster clubs next, and then see if we could get the money raised for that. One big item, we had to pick one big item. The item that I chose was the pole vaulting kit. The main reason I picked that, of the 3 items, it was the only one that was sport specific, and if a track coach is asking for a new pole vaulting fit, it's probably a pretty good chance that we do need one for the safeties of not only our athletes, but the athletes that come to visit. So that is the big item that I approved. There were a lot of sports that asked for either canopies or tents to protect their athletes from the sun and weather conditions. I cut all of those in the budget, didn't allow one. I thought that would be another good item for maybe the booster club to buy the athletic department, where we could have 2 or 3 as an athletic department, and then whenever a team needed one, we could get it from the athletic department and take it from there. Some sports, for one example, volleyball, they put down multiple items. They both put down cages for to hold balls in. I believe one of them, it was the boys volleyball wanted 2 cages, and the girls volleyball wanted 1. It may have been the other way around. We'll get to that there, or when we go through the slides. But I approved the 2 cages, but then I did not approve the 1 for the other sport, knowing that being both volleyball cages, that both sports would be able to share it. And there were a couple other items along that way too. I tried to be as consistent as I possibly did or could with the items for both boys and girls, knowing that we have Title IX rules to go by. And I tried to order the same number of items. For example, one basketball team wanted to order 25 basketballs, the other team wanted to order 10, so I approved 10 for both pages. So we're going to go ahead and look at the first sport, which was baseball. Keeping those guidelines in line, I went through and I made cuts to the scoreboard. Again, gonna reach out to businesses to see if one or two would like to go in and then put their advertising sign on there and have it be advertising for them. I did not approve, or I approved baseball hats for the players, but not the 96 that they would like to get to sell. I'm a strong believer in having order forms that players can take home to their parents to do that. That way we have the money ahead of time and we're not taking a chance with our budget money and then maybe get stuck with 20 or 30 hats at the end of the season. So I approved just enough for the baseball players, but not for the extras to sell. Again, they wanted 5 bats. I cut it down to 3, just so the team could have a couple in case there were some players that needed one. Batting tees I cut, it was extra material that I didn't think that was needed. And then the batting jackets I cut. I figured that could also go on a team sale. The next sport was softball. And really the only thing I cut there was they wanted 4 bats and I cut it down to 2. Again, figuring that most of the players already had their own bat and would be using that, and we just need a couple of them to, just in case players didn't have. The next sport was boys volleyball. Boys volleyball wanted 25 basketballs to start out the year. I cut that down to 10 to make it consistent with the girls basketball team. I thought 25 new basketballs was a little excessive, and if we just get in the habit of ordering 10 each year, that should be plenty, and then handing down the older basketballs to the lower levels through middle school. The shooting machine I think is a great idea. I did cut it in this year's package. It was a $1,475 item. I think it would be a great item for both the boys and the girls basketball to maybe split next year, and that way it's not one big amount coming out of one budget, but cut it in half and it'd be coming out of both budgets for next year. The other thing that I cut out of here was travel gear. Again, if a coach would like their kids to dress alike, he can put it on a team sale and have the kids purchase it before the school year or before the season starts. Next sport was girls basketball. I cut their shooting shirts. Again, I approved their uniforms, so I cut their shooting shirts. Shooting shirts is something that they can order next year. And then the only other thing I cut it with this one was the mop. Figured the custodians, and that would be part of the custodian budget to get mops for the gym floor. Next sport was boys soccer. They wanted 2 packs of 24, so 48 total soccer balls. Thought that was a little excessive, so I cut it to 1 pack of 24. And then the only other thing that I cut on theirs was a canopy. And again, I was going to approach the booster club about buying 2 or 3 for the athletic department, and then teams can borrow it. Wasn't sure what was going on with the senior banner. I think, I know a lot of schools do senior banners and individual banners. I think that's a great thing for parents to either buy or something that the booster club could handle, and the booster club could do it for every sport, not just the one. The next sport was the girls soccer, and this was a little excessive. They had t-shirts and shorts and polos and pants and everything for just to look nice before games and to travel with. Basically cut everything that I didn't deem necessary. Again, all of those things could go on a preseason team order and let the girls purchase what they want. Strong believer that if the school is going to pay for it, it should be something that the school keeps, and then those individual t-shirts and pants and everything like that would be expected that the girls would keep. So if they want to keep the stuff, they can buy it ahead of the season. I did approve the travel packs. That was $1,000. I approved the soccer balls, the ball bags, the goalie gloves, coaches' shorts, and coaches' jackets. Basically cut their budget from their wish list of $19,000 plus to just under $4,500 plus. Next sport was boys track. On their budget, I approved everything. Again, this was the one big package, or one big item that we needed to do. So my reasoning earlier of if a coach asks for a new pole vaulting pit and equipment, it's probably for safety reasons and the safety of our kids and also athletes coming to visit. I thought it was a good one to approve there. So I did not cut anything out of the boys track budget. The girls track budget, I did cut a couple things. One of them being the shelter that they wanted to buy, again the booster club purchasing it, and then also the hurdle cart. I think the hurdle cart is a good idea, maybe something we can split between the boys and the girls budgets in the future, but most of the time hurdle cart is not used a whole lot during the season. The hurdles sit out most of the year and is used when you initially bring the hurdles out at the beginning of the year and putting them in storage at the end of the year. The next sport was girls volleyball. Girls volleyball, I tried to be consistent with the boys volleyball team. They wanted 15 new volleyballs to start out. I cut 5 of them and gave them 10, same as the boys volleyball. I did cut the volleyball cart on this one because the boys asked for 2 and the boys cart was cheaper than the girls cart, and that's the reason I chose them. And again, the team shoes, I think it's a great idea for everyone to have the same shoes, but again, that's something that the athletes could pay for ahead of time. Football, I was kind of shocked at the budget. When I got that, I was expecting that to be the largest and most expensive one. So I was expecting a lot more. Kind of went with the same theory that I started out with. They needed new tackling dummies and a tackling wheel. I approved that. But the girdles and the gloves would be something that the players would use individually. And if they want girdle and gloves, then they can purchase them themselves because more than likely they would be keeping them at the end of the year. Wrestling was another one that had a large wish list, and also one of the ones that had one of the over $10,000 in his description of the wrestling mat and wanting a new one. He said it was good enough to last another year or two, so that's the reason I cut it from this budget, and maybe looking for next year or the year after that to provide that. The wrestling dummies I cut, that was just an expensive practice item, maybe not used that much, and maybe something that the booster club or something that the team could fundraise for, but that was just an expensive item that I cut. Again, I approved the singlets, and so I did not approve the warm-ups for this year. Next year I'll approve the warm-ups and not new singlets. And then the team headgear in the gear bag I also cut, that if the athletes want those, then they can purchase them themselves. The other thing down at the bottom, shorts, shirts, socks, and shoes, same thing. Do it as a team order at the beginning and let the athletes own them after they buy them. The next sport was field hockey. Basically the only thing I cut there were personal items. The sticks that each person would use, the goggles if they would want to wear them, and shin guards. I believe those are all things that the athletes, if they want to participate in the sports, they could buy them themselves, and the school should not have to pay for that. Next item was cheerleading. The only thing I cut was gloves for the girls to wear when they're cold outside. Again, I think that could be part of a team sale and let the girls pay for them themselves. Next item, girls lacrosse. Basically, the only thing I cut, again, was individual merchandise. Goggles, sticks, Under Armour gloves, and team shoes are all things that could go on a team sale and kids could pay for them themselves. The next item was dance. Again, not real familiar with the dance and whether the leotard shorts and tights, if they were for team competitions or if they were just for practice. Since I didn't know for sure, I took it as part of their uniforms and costumes and things like that to wear. I know most dance teams do own multiple uniforms that they do wear, so I approved all those. So I approved all their uniform, what I thought were uniforms and things to use, but then did not approve their warm-up pants and warm-up jackets. Again, something that can be put on the budget for next year. Water polo had a pretty big wish list. Again, most of the items that I did cut was personal items, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, swim caps, polos, sweatpants, and jackets. I all cut thinking that could be part of a team sale. And then the last thing, the scoreboard, again, gonna reach out to businesses or the Booster Club and see if they would like to sponsor and buy one for the school. Boys golf, I kept the same, even though it wasn't that big of a budget to start it and wasn't asking for a lot. I held true to what I said at the beginning. Since I approved their polos that they would wear for uniforms, I did not approve the rain gear. The rain gear, again, could be put on there for next year when they don't have to buy the polos. It is quite a bit more money, so they would have to maybe cut something else in their budget. Golf bags. Golf bags are not really a necessity. Most of the kids do have their own golf clubs and golf bags. It does look nice to have team bags, but one of those things that we might hit the Booster Club up for or let the team fundraise for. Girls golf, same type of thing. The only thing I cut was personal items, their skirts, their shoes, and hats. Again, I do think that all the girls should match, but the team buying the polo, the skirts would be a tough thing that people grow from year to year, and you'd be buying skirts all the time, and some would fit, some wouldn't fit. It'd just be better to have the girls go out and get their own. The shoes, same type of thing. They can go out and buy their own golf shoes, and then the hats just have that be part of a team sale. Boys tennis. I cut the ball cart in the boys tennis because girls tennis also is ordering one. I cut a ball machine in this one. It was a pretty expensive item. The girls were getting, I'm not sure what it's called until we get there, but they were getting something to help out with that. So I cut this one. The girls' item was quite a bit cheaper. And then I also cut the canopy, thinking the Booster Club could buy it for the canopy. So that's what was cut there. Girls tennis, I did approve everything. It was an easy toss machine. So that's something that both the boys and the girls team could use. But again, I approved everything there. And again, I approved the cart to hold the balls in, thinking that the boys and the girls team could share that. If going back to the ball machine, if that is something that the boys team still wants, maybe it's something we can split between the boys and the girls team and split it in next year's budget. Boys cross country, the only thing I cut here were backpacks. Everything else seemed really reasonable, so I went ahead and approved everything there and just did not approve the backpacks. Something that they could fundraise for if they deem it necessary, or also we could approach the Booster Club about. So that's it for the boys cross country. The girls cross country, same type of thing. We got off one. Should be on girls cross country. Okay, the girls cross country, I again cut the backpacks for them. And again, fundraising our Booster Club. Next sport was boys swimming. Boys swimming had a pretty good size that they were asking for. Again, I cut the goggles. That's something that they can buy on their own. Again, the score clock or the timer clock, something we could reach out to businesses or the Booster Club for. And then the backpacks just seemed a little excessive with all the other things that they were purchasing. So again, something they could fundraise or put on a team sale or something like that. When I started this project, I I kind of sat down and laid out the guidelines that I was going to go by, again, to be as consistent as possible, to be fair to both the boys and the girls, and try and again be as consistent as possible. After I went through the first time, I was under budget by like $2,000. So I went ahead and went back and improved about $1,000, maybe a little over $1,000 more to it. And then my final budget after I got done was $91,676, just a little bit over $300 under the budget. So I succeeded in that.